and good morning. When my wife Leanne and I began attending our Unitarian Universalist church in Franklin, New Hampshire, we did so with our young children. And I have a secret. I was afraid. I was scared. I was afraid and I was scared, not because I hadn't been to a Unitarian Universalist church before, but because we were taking our children. And because I felt a deep responsibility for their upbringing and their growth and development. You see, I was raised Catholic. And as a Catholic, I can look back on that experience and know what to expect. Children would sit in pews and they would listen to the sermon. They would be quiet. My mother used to pinch us if we laughed too much. We'd go to religious education on a day other than Sunday, and we would learn Bible stories. We would learn about love and compassion, about caring for one another, about the stories from the gospel, and we'd learn about doctrine. And we learned about what was right and what was wrong. And we learned about sin. And we learned about how we had the truth and other people didn't have the truth. But I grew up in a very secular world, and so I was learning about other religions. I didn't learn a lot about them, but I learned that there were other religions out there and that other people felt that they had the truth and that their beliefs had meaning. And so as I grew, I asked questions about the doctrine and about all these truths and was told that I should just have faith, or I should use it as an opportunity to deepen my faith. But thankfully, growing up in this secular world, I learned critical thinking skills and was able to sort of take the pieces of the faith that I was brought up with that meant something to me, that seemed valuable and important, and leave the pieces that really didn't make a lot of sense to me. So in many ways, as an adult, I learned to really appreciate what I was taught. I was given a very firm foundation. Now, I wouldn't want to raise our children Catholic. That wasn't my goal. Yet, I had a great concern about how our children coming into an environment that seemed to be sort of a buffet of different beliefs and thoughts, how that would give them a firm foundation. You see, while I feel like I grew up to understand how to interact with the Unitarian Universalist mindset and theology, really, I could do that for myself. But how would that afford our children the firm foundation that I knew I grew up with and that I really benefited from? I didn't learn how to be sociologically Unitarian Universalist, just intellectually. So I was afraid. And I remember Leanne saying, but this is our religion. This is the religion we've chosen. How can that be bad? And I didn't have an answer. I didn't think it could be bad, and yet I was still very much afraid.
I had no idea my dad ever worried about this. I had a kid version of the 7 principles memorized before I could read. Red, respect all beings. Orange, offer fair and kind treatment to all. Yellow, yearn to learn. Green, grow by exploring. Blue, believe in our ideals and act on them. Indigo, insist on freedom, justice, and peace. And violet, value our connection with nature. Growing up, going to Sunday school, and being raised by 2 very morally grounded people, I didn't ever have to reject any beliefs. I was allowed to look at options objectively and use that to build what I believed to be true. I couldn't imagine going somewhere where I was told what was right. That just seemed weird. Why would we want to subject children to that?
And Caleigh is right. I didn't have anything to worry about. I remember the moment that I realized I didn't have anything to worry about. I was in the car with the kids. We were listening to the news on the radio, and a story came on about somebody who had been treated very unfairly. I don't remember the exact circumstances, whether it was a physical mistreatment or another kind of mistreatment, but I remember our son Connor saying, "That's not right." And I said, "Well, what do you mean it's not right?" And he said, "Well, you shouldn't treat people differently you shouldn't treat people like that just because they're different than you." And I thought, I guess he has internalized the golden rule and does understand that we need to treat people well, and I can relax. I didn't have anything to worry about.
I enjoyed learning through Sunday school and developing a knowledge base in church. Every year I got to move into a new and interesting RE class and get to know more about myself and my peers. I've realized that every moral I have came from what I learned in church and what I learned at home. And even more than that, every moral I have is basically one of the 7 principles. I don't ever remember facing a decision and asking myself, I wonder if this is in line with one of my 7 principles. The principles were always just what is right. So it's a long time that I've known these principles, and I've known how much they mean to me. Knowing them and having this solid foundation in right and wrong allows me to go out into the world and think about it critically, and live in it, so far, successfully. I honestly feel like I have an advantage over a lot of my peers. In high school, a lot of people are just starting to figure out what's important to them and how they look at the world. But I feel like I've already got most of that down thanks to a nurturing and healthy church environment, on top of loving and intelligent parents. Now, at 16, I already feel capable of working in community, whether it's at home, in a work environment, or at church where I really learned what community is. But once you reach a certain age, there's no more RE. And once you start reaching that age, you take part in the coming of age program, because you're aging out of RE and into the adult community. But once I finished the coming of age program, nothing really changed. I aged out of RE, but was expected to just go to youth group like it was another RE class. In Futures, the oldest group of kids at Kids Week at Ferry Beach, during the summer between your junior and senior year, you bridge out of the kid community and into the young adult community. We have an actual physical bridging where those of bridging age walk across the boardwalk into the arms of the adult community, recognizing what members they've gained. And the younger campers are left on the bridge to say goodbye and see their peers go off to a safe and welcoming place. And I know most of this is entirely symbolic, but we're forced to recognize growing up and gaining and losing parts of our community. That's kind of what I was expecting on exiting the coming of age program. A knowledge that I'd moved on and that the congregation would recognize that they'd gained members of their community. But instead, nothing changed.
Having grown up Catholic, there were a lot of rituals and ceremonies that I participated in that sort of assisted my development. So I took First Communion, I participated in my first confession, and in confirmation. And given what I've said already, you probably guessed that I didn't really want to be confirmed. But I knew that's what was expected. I knew that it would hurt my mother if I chose otherwise, and I knew that it would be a fight that I would be away from as soon as I graduated high school. So I participated in the confirmation process. And the unexpected benefit for me was that I really did feel like I transitioned into the adult world of the church. I really did feel like a member of the church. Have any of you participated in rituals or ceremonies?